Gullah-Geechee people who will now play a role in helping to lay out the streets and the squares in what we know as downtown Savannah, from River Street to Oglethorpe Avenue, from MLK to East Broad.
What does Rice, the Civil War, and Hilton Head Island all have in common? My name is Jabari Gibbs. I am the editor-in-chief of the George-Anne Inkwell, and we need to talk about the Gullah-Geechee. I sat down with Dr. Amir Jamal-Toure to try to understand how the Gullah-Geechee have affected coastal Georgia and beyond.
So Gullah-Geechee people are part of the rich tapestry of American history. African people from Western Africa, Central Africa, and even smaller numbers coming from Eastern Africa. We are the descendants of those people who were brought over here for their knowledge, to the Trinity, cotton, rice, and indigo. Europeans, when they go to Africa, they just don't go to Africa and just grab people willy-nilly. They go there specifically looking for people who have knowledge. And so here it is, you have African people who are growing rice, and they're not just growing, say, African rice, but they're also growing the Asian rice in Africa. But they're also growing cotton, and they now will weave that cotton into cloths. And they're growing a plant called indigo. They have the genius of sugar. So when Europeans go to Africa, they just don't grab these people willy-nilly. They go there looking for people who have knowledge. So when our ancestors were brought over here into the United States in particular, when they are brought here, they're bringing that knowledge with them. They're bringing the knowledge of cattle raising, so what we would call agricultural sciences, in regards to building construction. And one of the foundations of buildings here in this area is something called tabbing. Something else you can tie to Gullah-Geechee people and the experience of African people in the Americas, that's something that people love to sit on, especially if you're in the South, is something called the porch. Porches come from Africa.
Left alone on plantations in coastal swamp areas, the enslaved Africans develop a distinct African-based language.
What going on, y'all boy? What y'all boy think? EFAC or flam?
Some people think that Gullah is baby talk, broken English, bad English. It's not even English. Lorenzo Dow Turner, who's called the father of Gullah Studies, he wrote a book in the early 1900s called Africanisms in the Gullah Dialect. And he talked about and discussed that the language that these people are speaking that you think are broken English, he's like, no, this is an African-based language that was created in the United States.
Food.
They call it Savannah red rice, or they call it Charleston red rice. Red rice, for someone coming from Africa, they say, wait a minute, that's jollof rice or jollof rice. And I had people from the continent come, and they saw collard greens, they saw peas, they saw yellow rice, they saw red rice, they saw white rice, they saw fish, they saw chicken, and they saw cornbread. They saw all of that. They said, that's our food, that's our food. Gullah-Geechee people are part of one of the ways that it still remains with us.
And music.
Now, some people who are musicians, some people who explore, some people who have knowledge, who have understanding, they say, wait a minute, that rhythm is an African rhythm. The oldest African polyrhythm in the United States is right here in the Gullah-Geechee area. The shout comes directly from Africa. Folks in the Caribbean, when they hear it, they say, wait a minute, we got something similar there. And I'm like, uh-huh. Even folks in Puerto Rico go and talk about this. They say, yeah, we have a rhythm. I'm like, yeah. So with that, we see again, the art forms are now evolving to other things like the anthems with regard to the spirituals, to the work song. All of that now we see having a root or having a tie to this area right here.
You know the song that you sing over a fire at camp? Kumbaya? It was originally a Negro spiritual, and it was only recently credited to the Gullah-Geechee for its creation. During the Civil War, Gullah-Geechee men fought alongside the Union because
who understand that the Civil War was no longer about them just having freedom, but it's about independence and autonomy.
After gaining their freedom, they were able to buy the land that they worked on as slaves. To protect this land from enslavers, they created a hair system to pass ownership down from generation to generation.
The African people now holding on to some principles coming from Africa with regard to communalism, that now understanding that they have to cleave together, they have to come together as one.
That is until coastal land became highly sought after. The land's hair system is constructed so that anyone with lineage tracing back to the land has the right to sell the property. Might I add, this could very well be a random person. Unless the family can pool funds together to purchase the land back from the seller, then the highest commercial bidder wins the land and can do what they please. The land goes for an average of $700,000 for a single acre. You couple this with rising taxes, because of luxury homes, golf courses, and resorts, and the inflation felt throughout the United States. Gullah people are very well being priced out of their history. A lot of misconceptions arise when talking about the Gullah people specifically, and Dr. Toure believes this is because
people profit off of misinformation, thinking that it was you call somebody Gullah or call someone Geechee, that meant that they were backwards. And so that's what happened. So that phrase began to get associated with us being backwards, with us being ignorant, when in fact, what it was actually showing that we were still connected to our foundation. Carter G. Woodson discussed this with Miseducation of the Negro. In the book, he talks about how we have relied on other people to tell the story, and they tell it incorrectly, not knowing the story. And so I guess I gotta do this right here. I gotta give you an African proverb. A mosquito will not teach an elephant to be an elephant. A mosquito will teach an elephant to be a mosquito. All these elephants walking around who think that they're mosquitoes. Again, not understanding their power, not understanding their glory, not understanding their majesty. So they're trying to be something that is not them, which is unnatural. So of course it's going to cause some frustration. Of course they're going to think that they're inadequate because they can't be a mosquito. Of course they can't fly. So guess what? Because they're still on land, they struggle with that. So they struggle with who they are. And this other proverb, this African proverb goes, the hunter will always be the hero of the story until the lion has a historian. And when I've shared it with some people, they say, wait a minute. That's us. We've been listening to the story of the hunter and not our own story. People talk about American history or Georgia history. I said, no, they don't know American history or Georgia history. They know American mythology and Georgia mythology. We thought that by connecting to Africa, that meant that we were backwards, that we were ignorant. That meant that we were not good Americans. And so we thought that if we detach from Africa, we would have full acceptance. But we know that that's still an issue today in this country. But what has happened for African people in general, people attack us with regard to understanding our foundation. And so when that happens, guess what? You become an elephant trying to become a mosquito. But some people, I'm going to be frank with you, are afraid for people to have a proper understanding. Because they understand that life is involving a race. And with regard to the race, it's about trying to hold other people back so that other people can still be ahead. But that's why now, we understand the good people across the board. Georgia Southern University now understand how important that is because you're in the center of Gullah-Geechee people right now. This is the center. When you talk about African American history, you got to come here first. The largest Gullah-Geechee city in the world is Jacksonville, Florida. What is the second largest Gullah-Geechee city in the world? Savannah, Georgia. The people that you see right here, they are part of the fabric of all of us right here at Georgia Southern University. They're part of the foundation for us to be here at Georgia Southern University. So, should not Georgia Southern University have a connection to Gullah-Geechee culture? Because we're the second largest Gullah-Geechee city in the world.
we have only touched the surface when it comes to the Gullah-Geechee's deep and rich history and culture that pervades our society today.
And that's why we have a center here at Georgia Southern University. There's many more layers to it. This is not even the tip of the iceberg. We have a large Sankofa bird on the window, and the address 13040 Abercorn Street, Savannah, Georgia, 31410. And Dr. Maxine Bryant is the director of the center. I'm the coordinator of the program, so Gullah-Geechee, and also for the Center for Africana Studies. So we right here view ourselves, and Dr. Bryant came up with this, as a communiversity. So it's a university, but it's also tied to the community. And that's why this bridge, this connection is happening with regard to the Gullah-Geechee Center, that again is open for the people and for students and all our scholars for them to come here and get the information.
This has been Jabari Gibbs, and as always, remember,
do not compartmentalize, do not compartmentalize, do not be in the box. Open up your minds to see the fullness of the story. See the fullness of it, because when you understand, and I share this with folks, that when you understand other languages and other cultures, you can make bridges and connections. But when you don't, guess what? You're disconnected. And then you're always at odds. You now look at the race being something exclusive for you, as opposed to understand that it's a team race that we're all in. We're in a humanity race right now. And so that's why we're going to get rid of the mythology and get the history, so that we are all God's anointed people.